Hey honors, I hope you're all having an amazing day. Welcome back to another episode as we talk about queues and explain why we create our very own linked list over the past few days. So my name is William McKeon, you're watching On Robotics. A little bit about me is that I am an electrical engineer turned computer science, but everything you all see on this channel as well as everything I have learned throughout my Python development career, I have learned through the tools of YouTube. So if you're not subscribed, please do consider becoming part of the Islander community by hitting that subscription button in the bottom corner. As always, sit back, relax with your favorite snack, and let's get started, shall we? Hey honors, I hope you all enjoyed that little bit of an intro. Honestly, today's video was so much fun to be creating. And honestly, I feel like I have to be giving you all a little bit of a backstory for why we are essentially making this little side project while we're creating our project for the stock analysis tool. Yes, the video's name, well, the project name is stock analysis tool. This video in no shape or form is going to be a financial advice video. But let's just talk about what I've been trying to essentially create. Well, the end goal for this side project is I want to be able to create a priority queue just for this project. And in order to do that, you need a linked list. But more importantly, that linked list is eventually going to evolve into a queue, which is what we're working on today. And then that queue is going to evolve into a priority queue, which is the end goal for what we want for this project. So with that being said, and we're talking about the linked list, why don't I just talk about one thing? Really, I've noticed over the past few videos, as well as while creating today's video, that the linked list module that we created in last video was very, very limited to only my application. I really want this code, or all the code that we create on this channel, to be able to be enjoyed by all of you. So what I did was I actually switched all that huge input argument for node, and I replaced it with data equals none. Now the amazing part about Python and setting a value of none is that you can actually pass in data being a integer, a float. I haven't done a list. I haven't tried this code out with a list, so go ahead and check out the GitHub link down below and let me know how well it works with a with a list. And then what we're going to actually be using this node now is actually we're going to be passing in values of a dictionary, which allows us to essentially allows this project to be continuing on with what we need, as well as this thing makes it very modular for all of you. So the very first thing we're actually going to be starting off talking about with the queue is going to be on line 1 over here on the queue module. All right, and the very first thing we actually have to do on line 1 is going to be importing our linked list from that linked list module as LL. That's what this whole line is going on. And then you're also going to notice that this module is actually very, very small compared to the linked list module. That's because the linked list module is actually doing a lot of the heavy work, all right? So when we define our class, our queue class, we're going to say self.queue equals LL, since we set LL as the alias of linked list, and that is going to be our call for this instance, all right? So therefore, afterwards, a lot of these methods that you're all going to be seeing in today's video is going to be stuff that either is going to be on a coding interview, or if you're doing this for a class, it's also going to be probably something you have to create for your class. So just to make simplicity, I'm just going to make essentially this module as close as similar to what those questions would be. And one of those questions is actually going to be asking you to create an empty module. And really what the empty module is actually a Boolean module where if self.queue.size equals 0, then we're going to say we're going to return the value of this Boolean function, this Boolean method, as true. If this does not equal 0, therefore our empty is false because it is not empty. And now that we have this all defined, we can actually switch over to the next method, which is going to the size method over here on line 10. Now the funny thing is actually inside of this queue size method, all we're doing is really pulling the size from the linked list method. All right, so that's really all that's going on here. And now we're going to be getting into a lot of the methods that's going to show the difference between a linked list and a queue. Starting off with the push method right here. Now a lot of you must have been looking over this video and wondering what is the difference between a linked list and a queue, because we're calling a lot of the same stuff that's originally defined in the linked list. Well, if you remember earlier in the video, I described a queue as an evolved version of a linked list. That's completely true, where in reality the only difference really with a queue and a linked list is that a queue only allows objects to be added to the back of its linked list or the back of the queue. Kind of think of, really, a queue is what it sounds like. It's a line or a queue where the first value in is going to be the first value out, and the last value in is going to be the last value out. Also known as first in, first out, FIFO. And really, that's going to start off with functions that are just like this, where we're going to say def push, and we're going to say self.queue.dynamic. So I have a little bit of a confession. When I was creating the dynamic method for the linked list, I was thinking ahead to this specific method where we're going to actually be calling it, and we're going to set data equal to data, all right? And then afterwards, just so we don't have this really long call line, we're going to say self.head equals self.queue.head, all right? Just really so that we don't have this huge line. Now another another method that's really just for a queue is also going to be the top method. And really what's going on inside of the top method is going to be that we want to see whatever is at the front of the line or at the front of the queue. And that's what's going on here. We're going to say data equals self.head. And if the person wants to pop that value off, more on what the pop is, then if pop is true, then the self.head is going to equal the self.heads next. And then we're going to return data, all right? Now, in order to actually get, so if you were just to say self.head, data equals self.head, and then return data as that, you're only going to get a memory address. To get the values within the self.head, you actually have to return self.head.data. That's why data equals that value. Now, the next value that we're going to be talking about, I kind of gave a little bit of a reference to, is actually going to be the pop method. And really all that the pop method is doing is popping off the value at the front of the queue and replacing it with the next value inside of the queue. That's why literally inside of the pop method, we just say self.head equals self.heads next, which is going to allow us to essentially go on to the next portion of the code, which is this if statement over here on line 23. And really the whole purpose of this if statement is just to test to make sure that our methods and our class is working successfully. That's why you see us saying data equals the queue and then print data.empty. We're just checking to make sure that the empty is actually working. And then we're checking to see if the size is actually working. And then from here down, what we're doing here is actually checking to make sure that A, we're able to successfully push values to our queue, and B, that our size is actually counting up. All right. Now notice that you see data equals a huge dictionary. I'm actually going to show you that it is actually possible to have an integer pass into this queue, a float pass into this queue, and all that fun stuff. But we're actually going to continue on to the bottom here, and really the bottom part of this code, the whole purpose of it is just to say this Bob doesn't really matter. But while data.head is none, essentially all we're doing is to make sure A, that our values are actually being successfully imported into our queue. And then once we get down to this line, we're going to pop the first value of our queue off, and then we're going to see if that value was actually successfully popped off. So essentially what we're going to be checking to see is if this 43 is still there. So therefore when we hit run, let's double check. True, yep, it is empty because we haven't populated yet. 0, yep, that's correct as well. 1, 2, 3, and then 43, and we're going to pop. Oh yeah, so the reason why it's going 43 is because we're actually printing the top value over here on line 33. So ignore that. And then 2020, so all right, and then 2020 again. So 43 was successfully popped off. Now real quick, what we're going to do is actually come over to here, and we're going to comment this out. And then I'm actually going to show you that it is possible, since that data is equal to none, it isn't restricted to only passing in dictionary values. All right, so what we're going to do is actually hit enter, print. Again, I always say this in all my videos, this is not sponsored whatsoever, but I really love Tab9. If you're looking for a autocompleter for your IDE and you're running an M1, I highly suggest it because it actually does work. All right, so with that little side note done, we're going to do is actually not print, my bad. We're going to say data dot push, and we're going to say data equals 1, 2, 4. All right, now we're just going to, actually we can't do this because it's going to cause an error, so let's just pop that out, and then let's just run the code now. 128. So you all can see that you are able to really have any data you want pushed into this queue. All right, as well as the link list that we were making over the past couple of videos. That's all I got for you Islanders. If you want to check out today's code, go ahead and check out the GitHub link down in the description bar down below. And on your way out, if you have not yet done so, please do consider hitting that subscription button as well as that bell icon. As always, happy coding, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!